Doomsday, Kane's forgotten beginning. Before he ever stepped foot in WWE, Glenn Jacobs was wrecking people as another masked monster named Doomsday. We're talking early 90s, deep in the independent scene. Places like the United States Wrestling Association, USWA, and PUWF down in the Southern Territories. This wasn't TV-ready WWE stuff. This was gritty, low-budget, Smoky arenas kind of wrestling. The kind where fans were practically breathing on the ring. And in the middle of that was a 6'9" juggernaut in all black wearing a full-face mask. Now, there wasn't much story to Doomsday. He didn't talk. He didn't cut promos. He didn't need to. He was booked like a walking apocalypse, a dominant force who came in, squashed guys, and left a trail of broken bodies. No flames, no backstory, just pure chaos and intimidation. What's wild is how much of the Kane DNA is already there. The silence, the presence, the sheer size. Even the mask had Kane vibes. Blank, emotionless, terrifying. It was all raw, unpolished, and totally effective. If you were a small-time wrestler in the early 90s, seeing Doomsday on the match card probably felt like a death sentence. It didn't last long, but it was the foundation. The earliest form of a character that would one day headline WrestleMania, feud with The Undertaker, and set the ring on fire. Unabomb, the Smoky Mountain monster you've never heard of. Back in the mid-90s, before the big lights of Monday Night Raw, Glenn Jacobs was grinding it out in a wild little promotion called Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Run by wrestling legend Jim Cornette, SMW was rough, raw, and full of chaos. And that's where Jacobs started to really look like the beast he would become. As Mike Unabomb, he was a wrecking machine. Black singlet, leather gloves, wild hair, and a permanent scowl. Again, he didn't talk much. He just smashed. He formed a nasty little tag team with Al Snow called the Dynamic Duo, and together they ran roughshod over the territory. You could already see the early blueprint of Kane starting to form, that eerie calm before he snapped and destroyed someone. And unlike his early WWE flops, Unabomb clicked. He looked dangerous, he wrestled like a monster, and fans hated him in all the right ways. Eventually, WWE took notice. And after SMW shut down, Jacobs got the call. The big time was coming. They just had no idea what to do with him, yet. Isaac Yankem, DDS, the dentist from hell. Glenn Jacobs' WWE TV debut was in 1995 as Isaac Yankem, DDS, Jerry Lawler's personal twisted dentist. And if that sounds ridiculous, it's because it absolutely was. He didn't just fix teeth, he extracted pain. Yankem wasn't your average wrestling gimmick. He was a 6'9" monster with drills, decay, and zero charisma. WWE tried to make him scary by cranking up the creepy dentist angle. They gave him rotten-looking teeth, a maniacal laugh, and theme music straight out of a B-grade horror flick. But no matter how many times he grinned at the camera like a madman, fans just couldn't take the whole evil dentist thing seriously. And the matches were rough. Not because Jacobs didn't have the talent, he was clearly a beast, but the gimmick was dead on arrival. He had a forgettable feud with Bret Hart that mostly revolved around Jerry Lawler yelling about cavities and oral hygiene. The whole thing felt like a Saturday morning cartoon gone wrong. Fake Diesel, the impostor no one asked for. If you thought the evil dentist was weird, buckle up, because next, Glenn Jacobs was Fake Diesel. It was late 1996, and Kevin Nash had just jumped ship to WCW alongside Scott Hall. Vince McMahon wasn't about to let their characters die quietly. So in a bold and honestly baffling move, WWE slapped Diesel's old gear on Glenn Jacobs and sent him out to impersonate Nash. Same look, same music, same mannerisms. But it was painfully obvious. This wasn't Big Daddy cool. The crowd didn't buy it. Not for a second. Imagine going to a concert to see your favorite band and a tribute act walks on stage. That was Fake Diesel. It felt cheap, forced. And Jacobs, through no fault of his own, was caught in the middle of a gimmick doomed to fail. The guy was nearly 7 feet tall and jacked, but when fans are chanting, "You're not Diesel," it's hard to get over. And yet, there's something poetic about it. WWE gave Jacobs these hand-me-down roles, and even though they flopped, he kept showing up, kept grinding, kept proving he had more to offer than knockoff characters and rejected horror scripts. You could sense it. This guy was just one great gimmick away from changing everything. And that change was about to rise from the fire. All right, real quick, if you're enjoying this so far, please give the video a like. It really helps out the channel. Also, I'd love to hear what you think about early Kane. The Doomsday stuff, Unabomb, even those weird dentist and Fake Diesel days. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. The Big Red debut, Kane Unleashed. October 5th, 1997. Bad Blood in Your House, Hell in a Cell, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Blood, chaos, steel. Then, bam, the lights cut out. The organ hits. Fire explodes from the stage. Out walks a hulking, masked monster in red and black, dragging the gates of hell behind him. Paul Bearer screams, "That's gotta be Kane!" And in that moment, WWE changed forever. Kane wasn't just another big man. He was Undertaker's long-lost, thought-to-be-dead brother. The story goes their family home burned down years ago. Taker thought Kane died, but nah, Kane survived. And now he was back for revenge, led by Bearer, who turned on Taker like the absolute menace he was. Kane ripped the cell door clean off the hinges like it was tinfoil, stepped in, stared down his brother, then dropped him with a tombstone piledriver so clean it sent shivers down spines. Everything, the mask, the silence, the fire, screamed mythology. Kane wasn't a wrestler. He was a living nightmare. And for months, he didn't say a single word, just walked in, destroyed people, and left bodies in his wake. Even The Undertaker hesitated to fight him. He was fire, fear, and family trauma all wrapped in one terrifying package. He was an instant icon. WWE didn't just create a character, they gave birth to a legend. Brothers of Destruction, blood feud to tag team terror. At first, Kane and The Undertaker were enemies, bitter, fire-fueled, family feud-style enemies. But once the smoke cleared and the graves were dug, WWE gave us something even better, the Brothers of Destruction. It started in the late 90s, around 1998, when the two finally found common ground, usually by laying waste to everyone else. At first, it was uneasy, like a, "I'll team with you, but I still might set you on fire afterward" kind of vibe. But when Kane and Taker clicked, it was terrifying. They weren't just another tag team, they were two giants of myth walking side by side. They didn't wrestle together all the time. This wasn't week-to-week stuff. But when WWE needed chaos, the Brothers of Destruction showed up. Whether it was cleaning house in a brawl, facing off against the Dudleys, DX, or the Wyatt family, their presence hit different. It wasn't about belts, though they did win the World Tag Team titles multiple times. It was about domination. Picture it. The gong hits, lights go out, fire erupts, and suddenly two 7-foot monsters are walking down the ramp in unison, the crowd losing their minds. Their most memorable run came in the early 2000s. But they reunited off and on for years, most notably against The Shield in 2013 and in that infamous tag match versus Triple H and Shawn Michaels at Crown Jewel 2018. They weren't just brothers by storyline, they were bonded by legacy. Destruction was never a gimmick, it was their birthright. Kane unmasked. The monster becomes a man. June 23, 2003, Madison Square Garden. Kane loses a match to Triple H, and after 6 years of fire and fear, the mask comes off. And what we saw underneath? Pure madness. This version of Kane wasn't the silent, tortured soul anymore. He was unhinged. Shaved head, black war paint under wild eyes, and a smirk that said, "I'm about to ruin your day." The unmasking wasn't just a visual change, it was a full character reboot. Kane didn't just lose his mask, he lost his damn mind. First thing he did was turn on his tag partner, Rob Van Dam, chokeslammed him straight to hell. Then he went on a rampage, set Jim Ross on fire, electrocuted Shane McMahon's you-know-whats, and tombstoned Linda McMahon live on national TV like it was a Sunday barbecue. This was Kane at his most chaotic, and honestly, it ruled. He talked more, he laughed, he screamed, he went full psycho, and fans ate it up. Sure, some missed the silent monster, but this Kane was unpredictable, dangerous, a walking time bomb with no conscience and nothing to lose. Kane and Daniel Bryan, the odd couple of WWE. If you told fans in the 90s that Kane, the monstrous, fire-breathing Big Red Machine, would one day team with Daniel Bryan, the scrappy, no-nonsense underdog, they'd probably laugh in your face. But that's exactly what happened. Fast forward to 2012, 2013, and WWE threw us one of the strangest yet surprisingly effective tag teams in recent memory. Kane, now mostly unmasked, paired up with Daniel Bryan, who was riding a huge wave of fan support thanks to his incredible in-ring skills and the infamous "yes" chant. At first, it was weird. The towering, almost supernatural presence of Kane next to the smaller, grounded Bryan was an odd visual contrast. But WWE leaned into it. Bryan was the fiery heart, Kane the brute force, and together they were a perfect storm. The duo won the WWE Tag Team Championships, proving they weren't just a gimmick. Their chemistry was real. Kane's power complemented Bryan's speed and technical wizardry, and they both had surprising comedic timing during backstage segments. It was like watching two completely different wrestling worlds collide, and somehow it worked. Corporate Kane, from Hellfire to dress shoes. Just when you thought Kane couldn't get any weirder, they gave him a suit. This version hit around 2013, and let's be honest, it felt like a fever dream. Gone were the flames and chains, No more demonic promos or choke slams from the shadows. Instead, Kane was clean-shaven, suited up, and serving as the director of operations for the Authority. Yep, the same guy who once tried to set people on fire was now politely walking around backstage, like HR, with a death stare. Corporate Kane wasn't about being scary, he was about control. He played it straight, handled business, followed orders from Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, and kept the chaos at bay, until he didn't. Because underneath the tie and clipboard, the big red machine was still there, boiling, waiting. You could see it in the way he'd twitch when someone crossed the line, or how he'd quietly snap and throw on the mask again, just to remind everyone who the hell he really was. This duality made him weirdly fascinating. One minute he's booking matches, the next he's dragging someone to hell like it's Take Your Monster to Work Day. Some fans hated it, others weren't on the joke. But love it or not, Corporate Kane gave the character surprising longevity. Instead of fizzling out, he adapted, leaned into absurdity, and still made it entertaining. What's coming next? Kane's back as the Demon of Nostalgia, classic, unpredictable, and with a twist only time could deliver. You won't want to miss how this legend rewrites his story. If you haven't already, hit subscribe to catch every deep dive and breakdown as soon as they drop. And I want to hear from you. Who should I cover next? Drop your favorite legends, wild characters, or unforgettable moments in the comments, and I'll bring them to life. Demon of Nostalgia, the return of the masked monster. By the late 2010s, Kane had become more myth than man. He wasn't a weekly presence anymore. He'd show up every once in a while, usually when someone needed to get wrecked in epic fashion. And when that pyro hit, even after all those years, you felt it. Because this wasn't Corporate Kane. This wasn't Isaac Yankem or fake Diesel. This was classic, masked, fire and fury Kane, resurrected for one more run. The mask was back. The gear was old school. The chokeslams still snapped the soul out of you. This version of Kane lived in a strange but glorious space. He was part legend, part fan service. WWE leaned into nostalgia, and Kane embraced it. Whether he was reuniting with Undertaker to face DX, popping into a Royal Rumble, or delivering a vintage beatdown for the crowd to go wild. Was he as fast? No. Was he as terrifying as 97 Kane? Probably not. But he didn't need to be. By now, Kane wasn't just a character. He was a symbol, a walking throwback to an era when monsters roamed WWE and nobody was safe when the lights went red.